The true freshmen are already looking like superstars. This Lehigh dual meet has some intriguing matchups to look forward to. And the class of 2027, I didn't think it could get any better.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That is right. You are locked on to Penn State Wrestling. And as always, thank you so much for checking out another edition of Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State Wrestling and Penn State football. Well, Penn State added another elite 2027 commit. This one's a surprise. I'm going to tell you about him and just how this 2027 class is stacking up against the rest of the competition. It towers over the competition. And this latest commit, surprising, but only adds to Penn State and Cael Sanderson's leverage. Now, we're not going to get to see Ryan Crookham, Luke Stanich from Lehigh, and that would have been fun. Marcus Blaze versus Ryan Crookham, but there are still other matchups worth noting. An NCAA postseason rematch between Luke Lilledahl and Sheldon Seymour. That one's going to be entertaining, and we'll see where Cole Mirasola is with Nathan Taylor, a top 10 matchup waiting for him in Rec Hall. But takeaways here to start with Penn State as they dominate Drexel. But the true freshmen, I mean, look the part. And not that this is something that we didn't anticipate, but it just adds more credence here to the fact that Blaze and Duke starting right out of the gate, not opting for a red shirt. And these guys look the part of being NCAA Finals contenders, guys that are going to be strongly in the mix at 133 and 157. So if you have any concerns or reservations, and I know these aren't their toughest matchups, don't get me wrong. Marcus Blaze is going to face tougher competition than Kyle Waterman. PJ Duke is going to face tougher competition than Luke Nichter. But just it's the way that Blaze and both Blaze and Duke in this dual meet did end up pinning their competition against Drexel. But it's just the way that they've come out firing so far early in their Penn State careers that I don't have a lot of criticisms to this point. It shows how talented when you see PJ Duke go up against Joe Seeley. That is just how talented the Penn State mat room is overall. But when you get outside competition, PJ Duke, Marcus Blaze, any of these guys, they are just significantly further ahead where they are in their development as true freshmen. Because I'm not watching these dual meets. Marcus Blaze, we've seen a number of matches from him now. We've seen a number of matches from PJ Duke, mostly at the Army Black Knight Invitational. But to sit back and say, there's not a lot of criticisms right now of their game. And the one question that I did have about PJ Duke, okay, are we going to see some more offense? Asking Jeff Byers, presenting the question when he was back on the show to preview these dual meets. And we talked about that, hey, Duke only scored 2 points against Joe Seeley. I give a lot of credit to Joe Seeley because I think he is that good to kind of keep PJ Duke's offense contained to an extent. But he won that one, and who knows, it would have gone to sudden victory hadn't it been for that stall point. And I said, hey, a key for PJ Duke this weekend, get the offense rolling right out of the gate against Luke Nichter. I mean, he pinned him in 1 minute and 15 seconds, but it was just takedown, let him up, takedown, let him up. And PJ Duke was asserting his dominance from start to finish and took care of business in just a little over a minute. So it's the true freshman coming in and putting any sort of concerns to rest. Not that there were many, if any, but it's just you wonder about the lack of experience. How are they going to do as true freshmen? They wrestled a lot in the offseason. Are there going to be any lingering effects from a lengthy freestyle circuit to where they might look tired or exhausted? They got to work through some things, transitioning from freestyle to folk style. And I don't see any of that initially. They're going to face better competition. I totally understand that, and I'm excited for it. I'm eager for it. When Penn State ultimately faces Ohio State and we get to see Marcus Blaze and Ben Davino, for example, that is going to be an absolute showdown. Same thing with eventually Drake Ayala, right? So these are the matchups that Blaze and eventually Duke, those are the kinds of caliber of opponents that they will eventually see. When you think of Duke, Antrell Taylor over at Nebraska. So the Drexel one, don't overreact, but it just continues to kind of add to the fact that Blaze and Duke are college ready. They're in the top tier. These guys aren't on the outside looking in. It goes back to my point and Jeff's point when we talked about this over the course of the offseason. The everydayers remember these conversations. And then leading up to our preseason previews, that these guys are ready to make a splash now. And you're not going to see growing pains, that inexperience that lingers there. No, Blaze and Duke are here right now to make some noise. Again, it's Drexel. Don't overreact to the Drexel dual meet per se. But you also have to take away the fact that Blaze and Duke are dominating now. I don't see anything that raises question marks about their game. But overall, Penn State wins that dual meet 43-3 over Drexel. That one over in Philly. It was a sellout for Drexel, which is great to see. Penn State would have swept the dual meet, won 9 out of 10, and scored bonus points in all 9 of those victories. The only one was at 141. And we did get an update from Cael Sanderson when he talked to Jeff Byers on the Penn State radio network, saying, just adding some clarification about Aaron Nagao. The good news is it's not a long-term injury. It's still characterized as an upper body injury. We really didn't get a lot of specifics, but Cael is taking it day by day. Jeff kind of reiterated that this is something that, kind of look at this over the next few weekends. Those were his words, that Aaron Nagao might be out the next few weekends. And it's precautionary. You don't want to rush him back if there is something lingering. You have someone like Cael Nazdeo who can anchor the 141 spot for the moment. Nazdeo, talented wrestler. I saw him wrestle a ton at Williamsport when he was coming out of high school. I covered a lot of Pennsylvania high school wrestling during that time. And there was a lot, there's not as much upside with Nazdeo right now. But what he can do is stabilize 141 so that it's just not this weak link for the next month or who knows how long that Aaron Nagao has to be out. But the good news is Nagao is not out for the season. He's not out long-term. It's a short-term situation that they're going to monitor. It's an upper body injury. Maybe it's something that he's dealt with before. Who knows? We'll get certainly clarification as Cael Sanderson allows us to. But for the Drexel dual meet overall, Penn State 43-3 over Drexel, 38-2 in terms of takedowns, 16 bonus points, 2 pins coming from the true freshmen and Marcus Blaze and PJ Duke, 3 tech falls, 4 major decisions. It was also Penn State's 73rd straight dual meet victory. The last time they lost a dual meet was in 2020, January 31st against Iowa. And here were all the results in case you missed them. Luke Lilledahl at 125 defeats Desmond Pleasant 19-7. Marcus Blaze ended up pinning Kyle Waterman, as we had discussed, in 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Then Jordan Soriano defeated Cael Nazdeo, and I thought he was so close to getting a takedown there towards the end. 8-5, Soriano gets the victory. Shane Van Ness tech fall over Patrick Kelly, 20-4. PJ Duke pins Luke Nichter in 1 minute and 15 seconds, as we discussed. Mitchell Messenbrink tech fall over Cody Walsh, 19-4. Levi Haynes, major decision over Josiah Queen, who was ranked number 17 overall, 12-1. Rocco Welsh, 13-3 over Ethan Wilson. Connor Mirasola at 197, still filling in for Josh Barr. So when can we anticipate Barr to be back? Probably still relatively soon, probably by the time we get to the new year, right? But Mirasola tech fall, 22-5 over Justin Griffith. And Cole Mirasola over Nate Schoen. Early on, Schoen did give him a little bit of a fight, but then Cole settled in and ends up winning that one 10-2. Solid decision against his counterpart there. And Cole Mirasola, when we're talking about this Penn State Lehigh dual meet, which we're going to do in just a moment here, Sheldon Seymour and Luke Lilledahl, that's the headline matchup. After that, Cole Mirasola and Nathan Taylor, not too far off. We're going to discuss that and preview what to know about this Lehigh dual meet coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Aura Frames. The holidays are officially here, which means gift hunting season is on. And if you want something meaningful, personal, and guaranteed to get a reaction, Aura Frames is the gift that delivers every single time. It's not just something that you wrap. It's a way to share memories, because Aura isn't your average picture frame. You can preload the frame with photos before gifting it. So when they plug it in, memories are already there. No apps to figure it out, no setup headaches, just instant smiles. Grandparents, parents, newlyweds, friends and family, anybody who loves photos, this is the perfect gift for them. You get endless uploads of pictures and 30-second videos through the Aura app. Add a personalized message right inside the frame so that the gift feels thoughtful the moment it's open. And to save some hassle, packaging comes gift ready, no price tag, no wrapping needed. That's a huge win. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code COLLEGE at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. Again, auraframes.com, promo code COLLEGE. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Penn State versus Lehigh. It's not going to be the kind of caliber matchup that I thought it was going to originally be. That's because there's no Ryan Crookham at 133 and there's no Luke Stanich at 141. Some people have made the argument that Sheldon Seymour and Crookham and Stanich altogether is the best lightweight trio in the country. Luke Lilledahl, Marcus Blaze, and Aaron Nagao, when those guys are all healthy and in the lineup, okay, I think it's a little bit it's pretty close, but that is the kind of caliber of team that Lehigh is supposed to have. So it's a little disappointing that we're not going to get to see some of these matchups, but Sheldon Seymour and Luke Lilledahl, that's the headlining matchup. You also have Logan Rosinski at 157 against PJ Duke. And again, Joe Seeley could, in theory, wrestle. Maybe Duke gets Sunday off here, but we're anticipating, we would like to see a top 10 showdown caliber. I know PJ Duke hasn't cracked the top 10 yet, but we know that PJ Duke, the eye test says he's a top 5 wrestler conservatively at 157, and Logan Rosinski right there at number 10. Max Brignola, number 7 at 165, going up against Mitchell Messenbrink. There could be some points in that if Brignola brings his A game. Rylan Rogers is a good, solid test for Rocco Welsh. You have JT Davis, who is in the top 25, also alongside Rylan Rogers at 197 to test Connor Mirasola. And then Nathan Taylor and Cole Mirasola at heavyweight. Those are the matchups that you should be anticipating. Overall, Penn State does have the potential to shut out Lehigh once again. Luke Lilledahl going to get things started off. I anticipate wins from Blaze. 141 is where it comes into question. Again, Cael Sanderson, can he bounce back after the loss to Soriano? How is he going to do against a wrestler like Carter Bailey, who shouldn't be an afterthought? Bailey is a talented wrestler. Now, he's not Luke Stanich, of course, but at 141, they got some solid depth there for Lehigh. Overall, individual matchups will be exciting here. So for Luke Lilledahl, to start things off, before we go to Cole Mirasola, who has the most on the line this weekend, it kind of tells us, okay, where is he right now in his development? You get a solid win over Nate Schoen, which is what we were anticipating here. But now the competition goes a larger step up, okay? And against Nathan Taylor. So the one that benefits the most from having a successful weekend is certainly Cole Mirasola at heavyweight. But as we focus on Sheldon Seymour and Luke Lilledahl for the third time in their respective careers, as they're split, it's a 1-1 series. Sheldon Seymour ended up winning the last time, which was the most consequential one, being in the postseason. Luke Lilledahl, as a true freshman, got things started off when this dual meet was back at Lehigh, just last season. And Luke Lilledahl, that was his signature victory to start out his career. And it was both of them have been low scoring. Last one went to sudden victory, right? They needed extra time to figure it out. And it was Lilledahl who won in the final seconds against Seymour the first time around. So if history tells us anything, this is going to be low scoring. And why is that going to be the case? Because Sheldon Seymour, as a veteran of the sport, he understands. He has to be methodical with the weight because he can't go toe-to-toe with Luke Lilledahl's offense. He can't keep up with the scoring. So in Luke Lilledahl's case, you almost want to take a page out of Mitchell Messenbrink's book where you just push the pace, where you just go, go, go. Because I think the two mistakes, even though Lilledahl did win the first time around, is adjusting to Sheldon Seymour and working the match the way that he wants to, being selective with your shots, right? You don't want to make a mistake because Seymour is great at defense. He's an elite defender, which is why you're going to see him again try to slow the match down, win in the final seconds. Maybe you take this to sudden victory again and just let one takedown be the difference. See if you can win with your top defense and with riding time. I don't blame Seymour for doing that. He knows that he cannot win this dual meet on his feet, especially against a wrestler like Luke Lilledahl. So in Lilledahl's case, push the pace, try to score, threaten Seymour, and see if you can build an early lead, because we saw him do that against a Matt Ramos. And you go out there and you made your decision, somebody that was expected to win an NCAA title, but you wrestled kind of passively against Seymour the match after that. So I want to see Lilledahl, again, a little bit questionable losing to Nate Desmond. Again, Nate Desmond's a really talented wrestler in the mat room. Army Black Knight Invitational, teammate versus teammate. I get it. But Lilledahl, I do want to see him settle in, find a way to win against Seymour on your terms, and not go down to the wire with him. But Seymour, again, easier said than done. Top 5 wrestler, someone who's in the mix for an NCAA title this season at the lightweight. Certainly not going to dismiss Seymour and say that, I'm not trying to imply, it's that easy, because it's not that easy. Then at 157, we could see Joe Seeley here if they're going to continue to flip back and forth in the lineup. Again, PJ Duke, a little bit of load management, since he did have quite the run over the freestyle over the freestyle circuit this past off season. But Logan Rosinski, good test. Again, another measure to see just how far ahead PJ Duke is. Can you get the offense going where you're able to assert your dominance against somebody like Luke Nichter of Drexel, who's just not as talented, but then someone here who's top 10, could definitely be on the podium as an All-American against Logan Rosinski. I want to see that kind of presence from PJ Duke this time around as well. I already mentioned some of the other matchups. We'll jump ahead to Cael Mirasola and Nathan Taylor. I am eager to see somebody like Max Brignola and how he's going to do against Mitchell Messenbrink, because we know that Mitchell is in a class of his own. He is the overwhelming favorite at 165. He is in line to potentially, again, he's competing against Levi Haynes at 174, for example, but the Hodge Trophy can definitely be his if he can turn some of those tech falls into falls. Max Brignola, not somebody that you're going to pin very easily, not even someone that you're necessarily going to tech fall, but if Mitchell Messenbrink does, it only adds more to his current standard right now of just how far ahead he is against the rest of the competition. Hey, Brignola can score points, so I'm eager to see how many points are going to be put up in total between these two when they go at it at 165. Okay, so Nathan Taylor against Cael Mirasola. Taylor, somebody that's not going to be an overwhelming favorite at heavyweight, but is certainly in the mix. He's definitely All-America contender. Same thing, I think, for Cael Mirasola. If he continues to build upon what he has right now, redshirt season, and continues to fend off Lucas Cochran at that heavyweight spot, Cael Mirasola is setting himself up for a similar, the comparison to Josh Barr is a little tough, because going into that second year, Josh Barr exploded and became the anchor in that 197-pound weight class last season. I don't know that I'm necessarily anticipating that for Cael Mirasola, but he has a similar opportunity like Josh Barr, where early in the season, okay, so last year against Michael Beard, this is where Josh Barr was still, where does he rank? He was outside of the top 20, and then started to, this was the time frame where he really started to set himself apart and say, I'm in the elite category. Do we see that with Cael Mirasola? At least he has the opportunity to do that, which is what I'm pointing out. So for Nathan Taylor, top 10 wrestler, All-American bound, loose contender, fringe contender for a heavyweight title this season. Excellent test for Cael Mirasola. You got to get to your offense, because I very much the way that Cael Mirasola has been scrambling, whether it's against Lucas Cochran, whether it's against any of these early heavyweight opponents that he's seen, it's been his ability to be quick, to be offensively minded, to be offensively sound. And you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to find ways to use your offense to counter, especially some of these heavyweights that are going to rely on their defense. they're going to try to use top defense, rely on riding time, keep this as low scoring as possible. And Mirasola has been great, getting to his shots, scoring some points, pushing the pace. Do that against Nathan Taylor, you got a victory here, and you start to put the heavyweight class on notice. Cael Mirasola, he has the most important weekend this weekend. Got that win against Nate Schoen, who I do not discount. Saw a lot of Nate Schoen at the high school level when I was covering the sport pretty intensely. That is a talented wrestler that never materialized. He committed to Iowa State once upon a time. So I actually do put a lot of stock into a 10-2 victory over Schoen there of Drexel. I'm going to put a ton of stock if Cael Mirasola gets, whether it's a close victory or a decisive victory over Nathan Taylor, it's going to give us a better idea of where Cael is for what his aspirations are going into the postseason. So that one's going down 1 p.m. Rec Hall Sunday. That's probably when you're listening to this. So today, this is being recorded on Saturday here, but it'll be Penn State versus Lehigh, where the only couple of matches in question here: Luke Lilledahl, Sheldon Seymour, Cael Nagao against Carter Bailey at 141, and Cael Mirasola against Nathan Taylor. The rest of them should go in favor of Penn State. So worst case scenario, 7-3. Best case scenario, 10-0. You sweep the entire dual meet and you shut out Lehigh, which is still a really talented team. Speaking of really talented teams, the class of 2027, it's insane. It is loaded. And this commitment, this one was surprising because he did not have Penn State in his top 8 list of schools, but he commits to the Nittany Lions anyway. We're going to talk about Clinton Shepard, who is a top 10 prospect pound for pound in the entire country, and how he's committed to Penn State's class of 2027 to already add to an insanely talented group. That's coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best way when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into that moment. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. And lines are available for your favorite NFL teams as we speak. The Steelers take on the Ravens this weekend. The Steelers are 5.5-point underdogs, plus 235 on the money line. The total is set at 43.5. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites against the Los Angeles Chargers, minus 138 on the money line. The total is set at 41.5. If you like those lines, you can bet them over at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Again, thank you so much for joining me here on Locked On Nittany Lions as we are in the home stretch with Clinton Shepard, who now commits to Penn State's class of 2027, and he joins Landon Sidun as the number 2 pound for pound prospect who's already committed to Penn State. The Nittany Lions also got a commitment from Burnett, who was a former teammate of Marcus Blaze, Perrysburg High School out of the state of Ohio. He recently committed as well. Then you have Clinton Shepard, who's going to project around 149, 157. He's currently wrestling at 144 pounds. But Shepard, this one was surprising because Penn State was nowhere to be found. He wasn't even originally considering him in his top 8. What changed? Well, Cael Sanderson probably made some phone calls and they probably started the recruiting process and said, hey, we're looking for another talented middleweight here. We have Gavin Mangano. We're already loading up with Landon Sidun and Burnett. We'd really like you to join this class of 2027, Clinton. And Clinton says, I can't pass this up. Penn State is what it is, right? There were people that were anticipating that he was going to go to Ohio State. Of course, Iowa was going to be in the mix, right? All those top schools. But this class, 2027, for anybody that was concerned, the everydayers weren't. If you listen to this podcast, if you heard not only myself, but Jeff Byers too, when we would talk about these recruiting classes, well, the class of 2026, Look at Oklahoma State. Look at what they're doing. Penn State doesn't really have that talented of a class, and it's still good, but it's not great. It's not elite. I understand your concerns, believe me, because I'm trying to sit here and say, why is Penn State really, why are they taking a step back in the class of 2026? It's not up to the standards of being right there at the top. That is still a really good 2026 class. Don't get me wrong. That's headlined by someone like Jaden James, Sam Herring, but it doesn't compare to what they're doing in 2027, because 2027 was always the priority. Penn State's basically, so it's being very selective right now on the recruiting trail, which Cael Sanderson can do. He can be extremely selective. If you're not a fit, he's going to focus on who is. He's not just going to bring in a prospect or a wrestler just for the sake of bringing them in. But if you've noticed a trend, this is how Cael operates in recruiting. He doubles up in two adjacent recruiting classes, takes a step back, and then doubles up again. So now we're seeing this 5-year. He said before that they basically look in 5-year increments. So 2024 and 2025. That's the unprecedented. Compares to 2027 right now with the haul that they're getting. 24, 25, it was elite prospect after elite prospect. So Luke Lilledahl, Joe Sealy in 2024, and then in 25, and the Mirasola twins. And then in 2025, you have PJ Duke, you have Marcus Blaze, Masanosuke Ono, I think counts as well. Just to give you an idea that, whoa, 24 and 25. It's out of this world, because it is. You're not going to be able to do that every single recruiting class, because you are maxed out. Your limit right now, Penn State, Cael Sanderson's been on the record saying they have about 20 scholarship wrestlers. The goal is to potentially get to 30. Maybe they get 30 scholarship wrestlers at some point in time. But you're not going to, and with that being said, since you only have 20 scholarship spots available at this time, your depth is going to be maxed out. You're going to find wrestlers that say, you know what, Penn State is too crowded. They're not afraid of the competition, but at the end of the day, you might have different priorities and different goals. So by proxy, you're going to go to Iowa, you're going to go to Oklahoma State, you're going to go to all these other places because you want to find your spot. Okay, that's understandable. From Penn State's point of view, with 2024 and 2025 being so loaded, you're going to take a step back in 2026 by choice. So how does Cael Sanderson do that? He implements the 5-year blueprint. He looks and says, where should I dig deep? And he decided 24 and 25 were going to be those two classes to combine them together. Then 26, you're still going to look for those elite wrestlers, but you're not going to go as heavy. Now we're back in the pendulum swinging back. 27 and 28 are going to be those classes. So he looked and he said, I got to go crazy in 24 and 25 and then 27 and 28. And I'll still be selective in 2026 with who I want to bring in. He has 4 top 10 pound for pound recruits in this 2027 class: Sidun, Burnett, Shepard, and Mangano, and then has 2 more other wrestling commits in James Whitbread out of state college, so he's local, and then William Soto, who projects as an eventual heavyweight. Iowa came onto the scene with this 2027 class. And so did Virginia Tech. I mean, Virginia Tech has really amped up its recruiting recently, of course, because they landed Bo Bassett. They also got Melvin Miller, too, as well. So when you look at Flow Wrestling's team rankings, those are the 2 teams that are up top. But what's most impressive, or at least what caught my eye, is because Penn State biding its time, right, doing its due diligence, and Iowa, they go and get the Bachman brothers out of the state of Pennsylvania. They get Paul Kenny. They get Israel Borg. This is a class, and it was 5 commitments all in what, a 2-hour span, in a 1-hour span? Now it's like, whoa, Iowa's certainly on the rebound, especially with what Oklahoma State did in 2026. So just a good show of effort. But it's like, what is Penn State doing? Oh, Penn State's gearing up for this kind of haul, because now you add another elite lightweight with Gray Burnett, Clinton Shepard, who's going to anchor the middle of the lineup in due time alongside Gavin Mangano. and then James Whitbread, William Soto at the upper weights. When Flow Wrestling decides to update its team rankings, again, as it stands right now, Virginia Tech's number 1, Iowa's number 2. They haven't factored in the haul that Penn State just got over the past couple of weeks. Penn State will vault to the top and be at number 1. This class is just looking exactly, it's following the blueprint. It looks exactly the way it should with 2024 and 2025. 26 is still really, really good. Do not discount that class. But Cael Sanderson is going heavy in these 2-year cycles. He'll pivot the 1 year and then go back. So 28 should, in theory, look very similar if they continue to follow this blueprint here. So that's where things stand right now on the high school recruiting front. 6 verbal commits in the class of 2027. 4 of them are within the top 10 in pound for pound across the country. Insane haul. Could they add some others? We'll see. But if I'm Penn State, I'm very content with this group to this point. Hey, that's where we're going to wrap things up on this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. If you are new to the show, subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts, because we bring you these updates daily. We'll talk about Penn State football with all the coaching changes, Penn State wrestling, of course, now that they're in the middle of the season, dual meets, recruiting, analysis of what the results bring us. It is all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions. We'll talk some basketball. We'll talk recruiting, of course, as always. All your favorite Penn State sports teams are right here on the show. Again, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for checking out another episode. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Locked On Nittany Lions, your team every day, the #1 sports podcasting network out there.